Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with JIDE. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Nnamdi Kalu demands immediate release, says tuberculosis now ravaging the DSS cell. Also, Labour Party leadership crisis rages on as court refuses to lift chairman's suspension. And later in the show, INEC says Adamawa REC on the run as President Buhari orders his suspension. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. It's good to see you again this evening, Biko.
Good evening and Barika da Sala, Barika da Idel Mubarak, right?
Eid Mubarak.
The Fitri. Eid Mubarak.
Yeah.
Great. May the blessing of Allah continue.
Right. So let's set about ruling. The coalition of Southeast youth leaders have raised the alarm over the outbreak of tuberculosis in the facility where Nnamdi Kalu and other suspects are detained. They want him released immediately. Talk to us about the issues you feel are at stake here, Biko.
I think it was Nnamdi Kalu's lawyer, the special attorney, Aloy Ejimako, who relayed that piece of news after meeting Nnamdi Kalu sometime this week. His lawyer, he has access to him. Can you hear me? Okay. It was Nnamdi Kalu's special attorney,
right,
Aloy Ejimako, who broke this ugly piece of news this week. He met with Nnamdi Kalu and as he usually does, he tries to get Nnamdi Kalu's views across to Nigerians. And Nnamdi Kalu told him that in the detention facility, tuberculosis as a disease had broken out, and some of the detainees were already affected. So immediately, Ejimako broke this news. People became worried. Nnamdi Kalu supporters and even non-supporters became worried about his health. No one has confirmed whether indeed tuberculosis broke out in the DSS detention facility. But that piece of news came from Nnamdi Kalu's special attorney, who met him at the detention facility and conveyed his concern. So what they are saying is, look, allow Nnamdi Kalu to receive thorough Medicare, because Ejimako also said that he looked noticeable that he was suffering noticeable discomfort, malaise, and general ill health. So this piece of news is particularly disturbing because nothing must happen to Nnamdi Kalu. Nnamdi Kalu has to be given the best Medicare that is available. He must be granted access to his doctors, and he has to be allowed to eat what he wants to eat. And if he has indeed contracted tuberculosis as along with others who have contracted it, as we have been told, then he has to get the best. I mean, they have to give him the best treatment at this time, because we all know what is likely to happen if Nnamdi Kanu were to die in detention. God forbid. It is that fear that a lot of us have, that when we hear this kind of news, we are usually troubled. We believe that the issues have to be addressed quickly. It has to be taken good care of quickly, so that this it does not contract the disease if he has not contracted it. And if he has contracted it, he has to be given the best treatment. Tuberculosis is terrible. It's life-threatening, especially if he doesn't get the right. If the patient doesn't get the right Medicare, it can actually compromise one's life. So, the youth who are saying, look, give this man the best Medicare, release him as the courts have ordered. I know that the government wants the case to go on. What I would like to see is for this case to be dispensed with as quick as we can, so that we can move on, because the detention of Nnamdi Kanu has torn the peace of the Southeast to shreds. There is a lot of killings going on, a lot of killings are going on in the Southeast, and most of it links to elements who are fighting for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Just yesterday or so, 5 policemen were killed in Imo State by unknown gunmen or unidentified gunmen. So we want this matter dispensed with quickly. If the government cannot prove the charges against him, then they should let him go, so that we can have peace, because this whole thing is heating up the polity. Every time I read about Nnamdi Kanu being ill in detention, my blood boils. I get really troubled, because I know what could result from Nnamdi Kanu's untimely death, and we do not want to see that. We want to see him go through out of court settlement, or what we call dialogue with conditions. I'll be happy to also see that happen.
Absolutely.
I've seen worse people than him in other countries of the world have their cases resolved through dialogue. Yeah. So nothing is new under the sun. I just want to see peace reign again in the Southeast, right. So that the prosperity of the Southeast will not be abbreviated in any way. Yeah. That's what we want to see.
Right. Right, Bikil.
Right, Bikil. Let me quickly take one or two comments here.
I hope you can hear me,
Bikil.
Yes,
right.
Clearly.
Right.
So,
Fabian Akezi says, how can MNK, who is responsible for the murder of countless Igbos, expect to receive special and 5-star treatment in detention? This is a man solely responsible for the crisis in the Southeast. Is saying that he should stay here.
Well, one more comment.
Let me try to take one more.
As problematic as it was, I've always argued that we should try to resolve the issue through dialogue. It is on record that on Journalists Hangout and on this program, I've asked that this matter be resolved through dialogue. Some of the people who are abusing me and thinking that I'm against the Southeast They have a very short memory, and some of them actually don't read and they don't watch our programs. They are just rumor mongers. Otherwise, they will know that it is the peace and well-being of the Southeast that some of us want to see. I can't be happy that businesses are relocating from the Southeast to other parts of the country. You know, the Igbo man wants to open his container on Monday morning in Indonesia. Some of them would rather go and open it in Akwa Ibom. So let's have peace. There's no price that is too much to pay for peace. I spoke about those who had killed themselves repeatedly for 60 years plus in Colombia, deciding that, look, why don't we embrace peace? We've seen that happen. Most conflicts end up at the round table. So Kanu's matter can also be similarly resolved if Nigeria gets strong guarantees that it will cease to constitute a threat to the peace of our country. If Nigeria gets such guarantees, I will be happy to encourage the government to go into peace talks with him, as demanded by the late Amechi, Wazulike Amechi, the former, the First Republic Minister of Transportation, and even former governor, SDF. They have said that they can speak with him and get firm guarantees that he will embrace the peace. But maybe it's the next administration that will do that, because I remember that Bola Ahmed Tinubu made the promise in the course of his campaign that he will speak with the groups that are fighting in the Southeast. We have to encourage him to seek other means of resolving this problem in the interest of the peace and well-being of our country and its innocent people living in the Southeast, where they get killed on Mondays and other days when they choose to go out to on their lawful business. So we don't want this to continue.
Absolutely.
Whatever sacrifice, whatever concessions can be made, has to be made in the interest of peace. I've been around long enough to know that war does not pay anybody. War is much more expensive than peace. So some of the people who are looking for war in our country, by the time war is brought to their door, they will know that it does not benefit anybody.
Right. So Fabian Akaize actually corroborates what you said. He said, as an Igbo man, I cannot travel home because the unemployed youths have been brainwashed by their leaders about their history, and they have refused to speak to the elders. Honesty Babalola says, Jide, God bless you for your objective comment on Kanu. God bless you. Deji Akimbode says, detention is not a death sentence. Amos Okogu says, Babajide is always on point without sentiment. Okay, I think we still have two more topics to talk about because of our time we need to raise. Let's, change tack by looking at the labor crisis. Where the FCT High Court refused to vacate an interim order restraining the National Chairman of Labour Party, Julius Abure, and the National Secretary, Farouk Ibrahim, and two others from parading themselves as leaders of the party. It does look like the crisis rocking the Labour Party is yet to be far from over, BKO.
Yes, it is. And I have suggested to Peter Obi, who was the candidate of the Labour Party in the presidential election, whom we have come to see as the face of the Labour Party, to try his best to resolve these issues amicably. It is not a new thing for political parties to have crises, to even break up into factions. It's a normal thing. The Labour Party should not think that after all the progress that it made in the last presidential election that there won't be contest for power within his ranks. All the other dominant parties have faced that at one time or another. We can see even PDP is crisis is far from being resolved. APC has their own crisis. I'm sure a lot of our people watch the national vice chairman, northwest of APC. A year that the last NEC meeting that they had was actually in April last year. So they have their own crisis. The national leadership refusing to call meetings and taking decisions unilaterally. So APC has its own crisis that it is dealing with. It is when it snowballs into a much bigger crisis that people begin to talk. Now, what are the issues? There are issues around this crisis that the Labour Party leadership refuses to address, that they refuse to talk about. And it is the accusation made by the plaintiffs that Abure, the national chairman Abure, and some of his co-defendants forged seals, forged affidavits, and even receipts to contest in the February 25 election. So the issue of fraud, because they also to this to the crisis, to the court matters brought against it, they are not talking about the matter of forgery. And it was that matter of forgery, it was upon evidence granted because the court directed the police to investigate. It will seem that some of the allegations made were true. So if that is the case, what should the court do? Abure's lawyers are arguing that, look, this is an internal matter of a political party, therefore, the court does not have jurisdiction. But when somebody goes before a court and complains about and makes complaints that are about criminal tendencies and all that, the court would want to look at those complaints. The court may even say that it has jurisdiction because criminality is involved. I've looked at some of the responses of the Labour Party. I've not seen where they expressly addressed that issue of forgery, of fraud, or so you are expelling people, you are suspending people, and all that. You have to address some of these issues. So on May the 12th, because the judge on the 16th refused to vacate his order suspending Abure and co from office. The judge has said that on the 12th of May that it will give his judgment. No one knows what the judgment will look like, but with the criminal issues being raised, it may make this matter even more interesting than some of us have been talking about. And then there is also the matter of contempt of court that the plaintiff's lawyers have brought up, that against order of the court. The Nigerians are themselves as bona fide leaders of the party, and even went to the extent of taking decisions. Now, if you come before a court of law, you have to respect the court of law and be willing to abide by any decision that it takes. You cannot claim not to be aware of an order of the court telling you not to parade yourselves as leaders of the party at the time when you now forcefully got into your office and were pronouncing judgment on other people. So I am concerned about the criminal nature of the complaints, and I think that they should be ready to wash their hands clean of the allegation of forgery, because it's a very serious one. And if for any reason Abure is put on trial, Abure and others are put on trial based on the report of the police, because the police has been asked to investigate this allegation of forgery.
Absolutely.
If by the pronouncement of the court, it becomes clear that Abure and others were actually guilty of forgery, it would then be difficult for them to hold on to their positions in the party. Because what happened to Dr. Doyin Okupe may well happen to them, because Doyin Okupe lost his position after he was convicted in the case of money laundering filed against him. So I think that the May 12th, we should be patient for the judgment, for the ruling of the court on May 12th. If the court says it has jurisdiction and is prepared to pursue the case of forgery against this person based on the advice of the investigating authority, which is the police, then Abure and co will not be able to hold on to their position, because it will damage their reputation irreparably, and they could actually be playing with a conviction if indeed they were party to the forging of documents to be able to clear some Labour Party members to contest in the February 25 election.
Yeah, BKO, can you hear me? Can you hear me, BKO? Okay, BKO,
you can hear me now, yeah.
So,
let me take one or two comments before we go to our last topic.
Honesty.
Before I take honesty, I would like you to respond to Honesty's question. But then before then, Fabian Oluchuku Kleto says, "Good evening, Mr. JIDE. Thank you for standing by the truth, sir. You have always supported the immediate release of Nnamdi Kalu. I hope that the federal government will give reasoning a chance." So Fabian says here, Peter Obi is trying to become president of Nigeria. It's like Aisha Binani trying to become governor of Adamawa State, trying to steal the mandate at all costs, even if it means regressing our democracy. Honesty Babalola says, JIDE, don't you think that APC government planted more in Labour Party to disorganize them? So he's saying elsewhere that if Obi withdraws his petition against Tinubu, is it possible that the crisis in the Labour Party, the crisis rocking the Labour Party, will come to a halt?
I disagree. This is a cheap way of looking at a crisis. This is not the first time that Labour Party will be in crisis. The crisis in the Labour Party some years back led to the forming of Zenith Labour Party. The Zenith Labour Party is an offshoot of Labour Party. Any party that is successful, any party that is strong, there will be contestation for power. I see this as a struggle for power. You know, Ashwaju or the other APC members don't have to get involved before there will be crisis. Even small parties, almost non-existent parties, they still have crisis because people are eyeing power. You know, there's a lot of money in politics. So people are eyeing that position. That's why you see National Vice Chairman South. He fancies his chances of becoming the chairman of the party, because when he becomes chairman of the party, attention will be around him, and all the other benefits that come with that will come his way. So APC does not need to get involved. Who caused the crisis in the PDP? Is it the APC? So who caused the crisis in the APC when they had to chase Oshomole away? Was it the PDP? So these things happen. It's all battle for power. Power is sweet, and people will do anything to grab power, whether at a party level or even at national level. This is the thing. Let them focus. I've told Peter Obi that all he has to do is try and bring everybody together and resolve this matter. Let the factions resolve this matter amicably. Even in the APC, they had factional primaries. The party has always been divided. Even that's why it's winning election. They still have their crisis. So Obi should not think that, oh, his party will not have crisis. Why would you not have crisis when bigger parties than your own have crisis? It's all a struggle for power. So let him do the right thing, bring people together and see how they can manage this crisis, because it will damage them if this matter, the matter of forgery, is proven conclusively. It will seriously damage the party, because this is a party that came with the intention of changing the way we do things. But if it can be proved that they are actually guilty of forgery and fraud, then how do you expect Nigerians to look at them? That means they are not better than the people that they wanted to reform. It's the APC and the PDP.
I think BKO is frozen. Can you hear me? Looks like you're frozen. BKO, can you hear me? All right. So your frame actually froze before.
Brian. Yeah, I can hear you now. I hope you can hear me. BKO, I hope you can hear me. Your frame actually froze before. Right, good. So let's change tack by going to our last topic for today because of our time. INEC says the suspended resident electoral commissioner of Adamawa State, Buhari, has disappeared without trace, and this is after President Muhammad Buhari approved the immediate suspension of the man in question. What's your reading of these intriguing developments?
Buhari did not do this thing alone. There were people boarding him. There were people encouraging him to do what he did. It couldn't have been something planned between him and Aisha Binani's handlers. There are other people who must have been involved in this. Now, he's gone bad. People will now say, oh, look at what he has done. This is Nigeria. There's a lot of impunity in our land. The moment that guy committed that offense, he should have been arrested, kept in custody, while his matter is being investigated. So why would they even let him go in the first place? They should have arrested him. INEC invited him to Abuja. He refused to go. INEC sent communication to him. He refused to respond to communication. INEC phoned him. He refused to pick his course. That's a man who probably sees himself as bigger than our country and bigger than our laws. He wanted to install a woman as governor by all means possible. We will eventually have a female governor for the first time in our country, but this is not a matter of emotions. She just didn't have enough support to be crowned as governor, and I predicted that she would lose on 4 different occasions. That's the only governorship candidate that I predicted her loss at least 3 times. On 4 occasions, I predicted her Binani would not be elected, because I was in Yola for 9 days. And during those 9 days, I was investigating, trying to find out if she had the capacity to win and become the first female governor of our country, first elected enough popularity. Yola North and Yola meant that Governor Fintri won. You see that Governor Fintri was ahead of her in many ways. So how can INEC stay battling with the is refusal to post results on happening to bad eggs in INEC. Bad eggs who refuse to enforce INEC's rules and guidelines. There are still many bad eggs among the RECs who connive with politicians to rig elections. So I want to see Barrister Buhari brought to justice. All those policemen, civil defense men and DSS men who accompany him to make that illegal broadcast, they all have to be arrested and prosecuted. The moment we begin to holistically deal with matters related to the compromising of our electoral process, we will be on our way to achieving credible, free, fair, and credible elections. We must punish the compromising INEC staff. We must punish the policemen and other security operatives who connive with politicians. We must punish the politicians who rig our elections in barefaced manner. By the time we make the punishment to spread, by the time we don't leave out anyone involved in compromising elections, people will know that this thing is a crime and they do not want to do it. But a situation in which we just pick a scapegoat and punish that scapegoat alone, it's not good enough, because the person who got away with trying to rig an election or even rigging an election will come back to do it because we didn't punish him. So I'm happy that the president spoke at this time. I'm happy about the decisive action that INEC took. And we want to see these people brought to justice. NBA, whose members have been going from TV station to blow grammar about what happened in Adamawa, they have to punish their own man, because this is a barrister, is a senior lawyer who knew what the laws said.
TVC News was one media that actually stood firm and blew the cover of the lead when that shenanigan went on, and the station has been commended, by many politicians across Nigeria, even internationally. I don't know whether you'd like to speak to this, because at that time, every other media, both online and social media, went agog with, Nigeria's first female governor has actually won election. But then our own correspondent was there, doing justice to the reportage. PKO.
Yes, and the good thing was also that journalist Hangout Sunday edition was right on time. The moment that thing happened, I said, look, this cannot stand.
Is that okay?
And we got into the studio to analyze it thoroughly. We analyzed it thoroughly and showed Nigerians that indeed this was the person on the way to winning the election. So we provided the analysis. We stood by the truth. Despite pressures from different quarters, we stood by the truth, and that's the way it should be. Thankfully, TVC was at the point when that aberrant REC made that pronouncement, and we also brought it to our viewers, and our correspondent on ground provided what those of us far away could not see. And that was all we needed to now expand the scope of the discussion on journalist hangout and show clearly that what had happened was a miscarriage of justice. Within those 3 days, INEC had taken its decision. So the judge also stood on the side of the truth. We have to praise the judiciary for that, because if the judge had granted Binani's order, this whole thing would not be like what we have now. So the judiciary stood on the side of the people. INEC stood on the side of the people. We at TVC stood on the side of the truth, and we are proud of the outcome of the final analysis.
Right, absolutely. So let me take this comment as we coast home. Honestly, Barala says, JIDE, on behalf of my member, I want to sincerely thank you for objective comments. Please keep it up. Tractor Friday says, I don't think the security agents should be arrested. They are not part of the process and do not know what INEC has arrived at. Okay. Okay, I think honestly, Barala is just all over you today. Tiban Akaise says, and they claim that TVC supports APC. They should not have reported that incident live last week, Sunday. Ayomide says he's still talking about the last topic we talked about. And Fabian is saying here again, Aisha Binani must apologize to Nigerian girls and women for her abhorrent behavior and desperation to seize power. These have stifled the process of Nigeria having her first female governor. He also said somewhere that she ought to be arrested. Would you want to support that, PK?
Well, it is clear that Aisha Binani knew about the plot, because she had her acceptance speech ready. I think it was foolish of them to believe that once the REC made that pronouncement, it cannot be undone. And some of them were pointing at a portion of the electoral guidelines. But what they failed to realize is that even the current, the 2022 electoral act even permits INEC a 7-day window to review even a pronouncement of a winner that it has done. So I knew when some people were thinking, oh, it will become a constitutional crisis, I told some of my colleagues, my junior colleagues, I said, this will not lead to a constitutional crisis, because INEC has responded swiftly. It won't lead to a constitutional crisis. And the judge, we have to thank that judge for taking that decision. There is no way Binani can wash her hands clean that she did not know about this, because immediately that REC made that illegal declaration with 10 local governments, a collation yet to be done, Binani was already reading an acceptance speech. I mean, it's shameful the way the whole thing went, and I'm just happy that at the end of the day, the truth prevailed.
Absolutely.
And that's what we should be happy about.
Absolutely.
We don't want to see people rig elections in that manner. How can the REC say that, oh, it's President Buhari that appointed me and I have the power to do what I've done? Who gave you the power?
Right.
You must be deluded to think you have the power. The law does not permit you to take over the job of the president, to the returning officer. And when INEC decided that RECs shall not be returning officer for those elections, it is because they knew that being permanent staff, that they will have fraternized with politicians in their respective states. So they bring these academics who function as ROs, who have little knowledge of the politicians around, and they get the job done. It was for a reason. Now he wanted to take over someone else's job, but he has been put in his rightful place.
Absolutely. So it's actually time for us to coast home. Honestly, Babala says, my respect for JIDE heightened him to swear publicly about Asiwaju and the deed, even though some people said that you swore on lies that because you know that God does not respond swiftly, that you should have used Ogun or Batala or Shango.
Let them. It's a silly thing. Even if they bring that Obatala or anyone. Let them bring it. But the other person telling me to swear, we shall stand side by side. Let us both swear.
Right.
Let us see who will have the courage to swear on Obatala or Ogun and others. When I believe in something, I stand by it. When nearly everybody in Nigeria believed that Magu of EFCC was a thief, I stood by him, and he was vindicated in the end. People were warning me that you have taken your entire career. Don't try this. They were calling me, don't do it. And I stood by him from the beginning to the end. Today, he's been promoted as AIG, and the whole thing has been vindicated. There is not a single evidence that they got against him. Not one. So this is the thing. He won the election. Let people say what they like. Everywhere, I'm ready to defend the fact that I won the election.
Yeah, it's so simple.
Whatever you bring, I will swear by it.
Yeah, it's so simple. You will swear, because of our time, you will swear that based on what you know, that Tinubu won the election. And if the other person disagrees, let the person also swear that Obi won the election.
And we will now see who suffer.
That will strike at the end of the day. All right, Dikio, we need to go.
That's our show for today's edition.
And that's our show for today's edition of Issues with JIDE. Thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, and all our our audience, for those insightful analyses, as always, PKO.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless our viewers.
Right. And thanks to you, to our audience, for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria, and click on the subscribe button to get the latest information.
I'm also at Ibrahim, TVC News. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.